Welcome to the 2021 Video Game Year in Review, a yearly series where I look back at the games I've played over the course of the last year, and then rank my top 10 favorite games to see how they change over time. This has been a very exciting year for video games. So many great games came out this year, and I didn't play any of them, basically. But that isn't to say I didn't play any games this year. Even if I didn't play many, I still took some time to play some. I took this opportunity where I wasn't really buying new games to play the games I've been meaning to play for a while, and a few of these games turned out to be absolute masterpieces. So, without delay, I'm really excited to talk about some of these games. At the end of last year, I was working through Assassin's Creed: The Rebel Collection. Early this year, I finally finished it. It was okay, I suppose. While all the games here are certainly an improvement from Assassin's Creed 3, both in story and gameplay, Assassin's Creed Black Flag has many shortcomings, including subpar missions, poor pacing, and repetitive gameplay. These problems, however, were much more forgivable when the story was so much more engaging and thoughtful. The modern-day sections were still mediocre at best, but certainly better than those found in Assassin's Creed 3. As part of the collection, I also played Freedom Cry and Rogue. Freedom Cry was a really interesting story with some good characters. Unfortunately, it was so short and ended so suddenly that it was hard to fully engage with the game. The biggest surprise for me was Rogue, which I would call my favorite Assassin's Creed game. Being shorter, a lot of the fat was cut out, leaving a game that was much faster and more engaging. There's one specific set piece that's downright remarkable, and if Assassin's Creed games focused more on these moments while erasing the monotony, these games might actually be great. As it is now, the games are alright. After this, I played one of the best RPGs ever, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This game hooked me immediately. Being a big fan of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I was very excited to dig into the first Xenoblade Chronicles game, and it certainly did not disappoint. The characters start hitting quickly, and the game does a great job introducing everyone with depth and intrigue. Though the story goes in many shocking and unexpected directions, the game is immediately engaging. The first hours deliver many incredible character moments that it's hard not to care about each and every character even from the very beginning. With a game this long, gaining the trust of the character is crucial, and this game gained my trust very quickly. I spent nearly 80 hours in the world of Xenoblade Chronicles, and I loved it all so much. By the time I reached the end of this tale, I wasn't quite ready to let go yet, so I was very glad that Future Connected existed as part of the Definitive Edition. It was the perfect way, frankly, for me to say goodbye, because after spending so much time in a game world, it's very hard to let go. I became so connected to the characters that I wasn't ready to move on and start with another set of characters in another game quite yet. Future Connected is the perfect way to just slow down and let go. I made an entire video about both Xenoblade and Future Connected earlier this year, which outlines some more of my thoughts. But all in all, I loved these games. Around this time, I also wrapped up Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I had played Galaxy N64 previously, but I had yet to finish Super Mario Sunshine, even though I actually bought it on the GameCube a while ago. I never actually finished it. In fact, I hated it back then when I bought it originally. I got so confused, never knowing what I was supposed to do, and so I stopped playing. But apparently, I was an idiot, because I had a great time this time. Not every level was a home run, though the levels that bothered me aren't the ones that normally bother people. I suppose I found the Chuckster and Sandbird level much easier than many of the other levels, and certainly much easier than they're made out to be. While yes, there are problems and glitches and frustrating levels every once in a while, the game is really fun and well designed, and I was so surprised that I had a good time. I also decided to get into the Life is Strange games. I love story-driven games, especially when they're, good. And what do you know, Life is Strange and Life is Strange Before the Storm were on a massive discounts around this time as well. I ended up getting both games for about $8 total. I knew Life is Strange had a massive fan base, and I kept hearing good things about the game, so why not? I gave it a try. And yeah, it's really good. Like, really good. The game is decision-based, but every decision is written in a way that has no definitive correct answer. Your choices won't make a significant change in the world, but they'll make the small changes, the ones that, affect you personally. And it all leads up to this final decision that's so brilliant and challenging. No matter what choice you make, it's the right choice, but also sort of the wrong choice. There's no clear answer, leaving the player in a difficult situation that has a real emotional effect on you. It's genius. And of course, after finishing the first Life is Strange, I followed this up by playing Before the Storm. It might not be as good as the first, but it's still spectacular. The relationship between Rachel and Chloe is so well written and so special. The set pieces were fun, and the characters were so well written. The problem is that they were constrained by the nature of being a prequel, but they still found room to tell an engaging story, and it's quite fantastic. The game has a remarkable way to make you feel the characters' frustrations. It's quite grounded and tense. These games are great, and I hope to some point in the future play both Life is Strange 2 and True Colors. The next game I played is likely one you haven't heard of, Ceremony by Attempting Entertainment. The only reason I know about this game is because I voice one of the characters. The game is very short, and as such there isn't too much dialogue, but I still remember recording for this game and having a really good time. It's one of few genuine dramatic performances I've given as an actor, but I really did have a good time, and it was very exciting to see how everything came together, and it came together really well. It's only about 5 minutes, but the game is very clever, with a really interesting script and a very sobering ending. Also, I need to say this, my channel is fairly PG, and, well, this game is not. I'll just leave that as it is, just be warned. After that, I took a look back into my backlog and pulled out Pan Pan, a $5 game I downloaded from the Nintendo eShop a while back. The game is only about an hour, but some of the puzzles are very cryptic, making the game much longer and more difficult than, frankly, it needs to be. It's clever and charming, no doubt, and I just wish it wasn't bogged down with some of these frustrating elements. It's still a neat little game, though, with some good puzzles, but I definitely found myself frustrated by how cryptic it could be at times. I really wanted to love this game, but I ended up thinking it was alright. I wish nothing but the best for these developers though, because I think they're very talented, and I hope they can continue to refine their games and make something truly special in the future. One of the more exciting moments from this year was when Deltarune 2 was just suddenly released. For free, no less. It's no surprise that anything Toby Fox puts out is going to be absolutely spectacular, but dang. This chapter is, in my mind, the best thing Toby Fox has put out so far. It's full of character, yet it's so dark and mysterious. The villain was fun and the world was a joy to explore. And that ending, oh. I love getting caught up into the lore of interesting worlds. And the lore in this game is crazy. I got so caught up in the alternate routes with side characters and secret bosses. For a few solid days, this was all I could think about. And I'm so excited to see what comes next. That's it for all the games I actually played this year. There are still a couple of games I've played that I haven't quite finished yet, though. Last year I mentioned that I would start playing Dragon's Dogma, and I kept to that. However, while I know the game is very good, and I have nothing but respect for the people who developed it, it just wasn't for me. Nothing against this game, I think it's of a very high quality, just some games aren't for some people, and Dragon's Dogma just wasn't for me. I haven't completely given up on it, as I may try it again at some point, but for now, I've got to let go. Now, there are 2 games that I've actively been playing through as of now. Breath of the Wild, again, and Fire Emblem Three Houses, also again. I bought Breath of the Wild on Switch after beating it on the Wii U, as I wanted to be able to play it portably. So, for a couple of years I've been playing it again, enjoying the wonderful world once more. And I'm having fun with it too. I'm going with the Pro HUD, and I'm not fast traveling whatsoever, which really changes up how the game is played. I have a newfound appreciation for just how well designed the world is. But of course, when Monolith Soft does a landscape design, it's bound to be amazing. As for Fire Emblem Three Houses, I want to go back and play through all the routes. Having only played the Blue Lion path so far, I still have much of the game yet to discover. I'm still fairly early on in the Black Eagle route this time, but I'm enjoying the game again. The characters and the battle system are both very good. It's a bit weird, because the last time I bought a game on launch was Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which was just a collection of older games. The last time I bought a new game on release, or in the release window, was Luigi's Mansion 3. That was when I was in high school! But there's a specific game coming out next year that could very well change that. We'll see. Of course, a big part of not buying games comes down to time and money, both of which are very limited when you're in college. I've realized as a game designer I spend much more time watching dev diaries and learning about games than I actually do playing games. A note to all you future game design students. Most of us barely play games. In fact, it's rare for me in any given week to actually boot up and play a game. But rest assured, a lot of time is spent discussing games, how they work, and actually making games. And personally, this is my favorite part of video games. It's really cool seeing how games get put together, what they do to innovate, learning about this, and then getting able to talk about that and discuss this. But with that being said, let's look at my top 10 favorite games as of the end of 2021. Greece is once again in my number 10 spot. It's perhaps the most gorgeous game I have ever played. The arts and animation are straight up unparalleled. I think about this game a lot. The atmosphere and music are so strong, and the dynamic camera adds to the weight of the world. This game is an experience, and a darn good one. And not only that, but it's incredibly relevant, as it forces self-reflection. I love games with emotional appeals, and this is the type of game that in an hour can take your breath away and bring you to tears. And I love that! Life is Strange hit me with great character arcs and engaging storytelling. The game doesn't do anything flashy, and it doesn't need to. Max and Chloe are some of the most intelligently created characters in any game I have ever played. People often remark about how good this game is, and it's for good reason. While the dialogue may, at times, be silly, the writing is very clever and smart. The game plays off with suspense in remarkable and engaging ways. By the end of the game, I was in awe, and I just wanted to play more. The Dark Souls of 3D platformers. Super Mario Odyssey is a game that focuses on nothing but fun. Every second of this game, you will have a smile on your face. That is a guarantee. Odyssey changes the game when it comes to movements in a 3D space. Everything is so fluid that just running around and jumping on things is fun. The game is structured very well, with each kingdom having a story setup before opening up, then opening up after you beat Bowser. It feels like there's constantly something new to see, and seeing those things is always exciting. If you're in a bad mood, Odyssey will put you in a good mood. The ability to do that is certainly of great value. Something I really appreciate about Dragon Quest XI is how, rather than focusing on one central story, it focuses on many mini-stories. The game is naturally chaptered with many different arcs. In a way, it's structured like a traditional anime, with many different story arcs that tie into some central plot. While there is an overarching plot, that isn't the main focus of the game. By structuring the game in this way, we get a variety of landmarks, character moments, and interactions that are all quite fun. The game is sort of like a globe-trotting adventure, with each character getting their moments in the spotlight. This game is also super well polished, with everything being clean and glitches being very rare. Plus, this is the game that finally made me enjoy turn-based combat, so I'll always respect it for that. I I love how much my opinions on Xenoblade Chronicles 2 have changed over time. I hated the game at first because I thought it was unbalanced, but when I played it again, I had so much fun and began to understand the mechanics better. Everything fell into place and I was able to truly appreciate the game. There are so many nuances, so many great characters, world building, and storytelling. Everything comes together in a remarkable way, making for a game that feels very coherent and heartfelt. Playing Xenoblade 1 helped me to appreciate Xenoblade 2 even more. It's rare for a game to be as big, as intentional, and as well thought out as Xenoblade 2. Nothing is without a purpose, and the game's climax is jaw-dropping. Ranking Xenoblade 2 versus Xenoblade 1 is a bit of a challenge, but I've ranked Xenoblade 1 slightly higher because it comes together much quicker. Xenoblade 2 takes some time to sell its characters, but this game starts off much stronger. I was immediately hooked on the characters, as there are many fantastic performances and character moments early on. The game also builds up a lot in suspense when bringing you into the climax. It's really quite unnerving. By the end, you feel like you're really fighting a true uphill battle for something that is significantly important, and that's always exciting. The threats are threatening, the world is gorgeous, and the gameplay loop is a blast. Xenoblade 1 has remarkable pacing for an 80-hour JRPG, and I cannot wait to step into the next Xenoblade world. And I should mention that the soundtrack for both of these Xenoblade games are unparalleled. If nothing else, please, I'm begging you, listen to the music. I actually jumped back into Celeste a bit this year, just to replay some of the levels, and dang, they are all so fun. Celeste is so good that it comes up very often in game design classes. Last year I mentioned that I was stuck on the Summit Seaside, and well, I still am. And that's okay. Going back through many of these levels just reminded me how good this game is. Every screen tells a story, and they all combine to make fun and complex levels. Plus, the writing is smart, and the narrative on anxiety is very well told. I love when games take advantage of the video game format to tell their stories, and Celeste does this super well. I cannot wait to see what Maddie Thornton does next. Super Mario Galaxy is the first game I ever played, and I love it dearly to this day. I talked about it this year on my channel, but Galaxy has a very emotional impact on me. It's a very important game to my life, and now I am always grateful for that. Every time I play the game, it reminds me of a different life I used to have, with different people I used to know. Playing this game is very bittersweet for me, as it makes me a bit sad while I'm still having fun, and I love being in that place, reflecting on memories in a world that seems so different now. I really cannot deny how important this game is to me. In fact, this year I bought the original Wii release again in very good condition. That was something I had to do to satisfy the star-shaped hole in my heart. But now I own 3 copies of this game. I'm not complaining though. I think I've talked Breath of the Wild to death on this channel, but it really is just that good. The world is so detailed and clever, the traversal systems are fun, and the landscape design is amazing. The lonely themes are beautiful, yet there are so many epic moments. It's not perfect, but it is truly remarkable, and it proves to be fun now, nearly half a decade after its initial release. There isn't much for me to say regarding Breath of the Wild considering how many times I've talked about it, but I just want to reiterate once again that this game is amazing. Stardew Valley is a game I can always come back to. The village is full of wonderful characters, and there are so many fantastic interactions to be had. It's a type of game that, when you play it, you feel like everything is going to be okay. Things might not always be upbeat and happy, but everything will be okay. It's a game so simple, yet so beautiful and elegant. And most importantly, it's a game that I will personally cherish forever. There are some games that it honestly hurts not to include on this list, as I love a lot of other games still. But at the very least, I want to recognize some of these games for just how incredible they are. Okami is stunning, and while I'm not the biggest fan of traditional 3D Zelda games, this game absolutely hooked me from the beginning to the end. The characters are so whimsical and fun, the mechanics are so tight, and the atmosphere and art direction are so good that it still blows me away. For real, this game is beautiful. Deltarune Chapter 2 blew me away. It's one of those games that consumed my life with its lore. It's rare that I get so caught up in theorization, but it's so satisfying that, even now, there are games that can still genuinely shock me. I'm so excited for the future chapters of Deltarune, as there's so much that can be done, and I trust Toby Fox to nail the rest of this project. Fire Emblem Three Houses is an amazing game with fantastic music and battles. However, I knew this was a problem the first time I played it, but on a second playthrough, the monastery exploration is exhausting and repetitive. It was so much fun at first, but after so many weeks, it starts to feel like monotony between battles and lectures, and ultimately just bloats the game a bit. But the rest of the game is so airtight with great characters and great stories that it only falls short in just these few regards. But also, Mercedes is the best girl, and I am willing to fight anyone on that. This year has been a very exciting year in my life as I've continued to study game design. There are so many interesting things to discuss that I end off nearly every video talking about how optimistic I am for the future of video games. Games have such a positive impact in my life, and I want that to reflect through my content. I want to show everyone the positives of video games, how wholesome, uplifting, and important they are, which inevitably lends its way to optimism. Though, admittedly, sometimes it's very hard to be optimistic. I suffer from clinical depression, but I've created this expectation for myself to put out content that talks about the joy and positivity of video games. That isn't to say I'm constrained by it, because the wholesome side of video games is something I want to explore and talk about. It's something of great value that I want to continue to pour into, but it can definitely be hard sometimes. Every time I plan out a video, I stop to consider if what I'm saying is actually what needs to be said, if it has some value. Even if it fits the way I'm feeling in the moment, I don't want to put out content that focuses on negativity or pessimism. You might recognize that a lot of my videos talk about the emotional appeal of games, often using somber music and footage. I do this because emotion is healthy, and even if it isn't joyous, emotions are positive and are imperative to properly exploring the success of certain games. I'm bringing this up on a request, that you be patient with me. I enjoy making these videos, but to appreciate and appropriately make the video games I want to make, I have to make sure I can take care of myself. So producing content according to my aspirations requires me to take some time. I also bring this up because in a culture where we always see the good that happens in people's lives, there's a certain danger of being misunderstood when I produce optimistic content. Sometimes things are tough, and you don't quite know what to do, but take some time to reflect on your emotions. Whatever you're going through, you're not alone, and you can get through this. I believe in you, and I will talk to you all next year.